St. John Bosco often spoke of a large, beautiful gray dog that would frequently appear and save him from death. He named the dog Grigio, or the Gray One, and I believe that this fantastic creature was a physical manifestation of Don Bosco's guardian angel. The more incredible the saint, the more the supernatural becomes an everyday occurrence in their life. And this channel has proved that Don Bosco's day was filled with miraculous and mystical events. The hand of God directly influenced him to form the Salesians and an order of nuns called the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians. With a saint as founder of their order, to whom apparitions were a regularity, it's not much of a stretch to conclude that they also experienced heavenly assistance. In short, Grigio the angel dog was documented to have appeared to the Salesian nuns 3 times, once in Assisi, once in Colombia, and once in France, the last 2 occurring long after Don Bosco's death. In this video, I'll first narrate a story that'll give you a flavor of Don Bosco's interactions with Grigio, and then I'll narrate 3 accounts of his apparitions to Salesian nuns. The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Matthew Miller. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It was just 5 years before leaving this earth that Don Bosco began his historic 4-month tour of France, from January to May of 1883. He traveled at a somewhat relaxed pace through southern France, heading from there to Paris, the main goal of his journey. A happy and unexpected meeting awaited him on his return. Having tried in vain to hire a coach, he had to be content to walk all the way home. It had rained so heavily during the day that the growing darkness and the mud made walking hazardous. With his failing sight, Don Bosco could hardly see where to place his feet, when suddenly, who appeared before him but an old friend, the famous dog Grigio, whom he hadn't seen in 30 years. The friendly animal ran over to him, wagging his tail gleefully, and then he walked forward, keeping about a foot ahead of Don Bosco, just enough to be seen in the gloom. With slow, deliberate pace, the dog led the way for him to follow, avoiding puddles so that he wouldn't get wet. As soon as they reached the house, the dog disappeared. One day, while having dinner with the Olive family, he told them about it. Mrs. Olive asked, "How could this dog outlive all others?" Don Bosco replied with a smile, "Maybe it was just an offspring of Grigio." On another occasion, he was asked what its appearance was like. "He was a dog," was the simple answer. During a very dangerous period in Don Bosco's life, when Masons and heretics sought to assassinate our saint, divine providence sent him a large, very handsome gray dog for his protection and defense. This canine looked like a gray sheepdog or a watchdog. No one, not even Don Bosco, knew where it came from or its owner. Through the years, the guard dog proved to be a blessing for Don Bosco and the oratory, often appearing whenever they were in need of protection. However, the story doesn't end there, for the archives of the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians preserve 3 strange accounts of dogs which call to mind Don Bosco's Grigio. First account, Assisi. On November 2nd, 1883, 2 Salesian sisters returning on foot from Assisi to their school in Canada were unexpectedly caught outdoors, far from home, by night and a thick fog. They panicked. Sister Amelia Calon said to her companion, "If Don Bosco would only send us his Grigio." "Indeed," exclaimed Sister Annette Dalada in a trembling voice. Moments later, a huge dog leaped out of the hedges, jumped a narrow ditch, and, panting heavily, began to walk between them. He was a tall dog with grayish fur and long, drooping ears, his eyes sparkling in the darkness. As though to cheer them, the friendly dog looked up to each of them like long-known acquaintances and licked their hands. On reaching the school, the sisters wanted to feed the dog, but he swiftly spun about and dashed out the gate. They ran after him. However, they saw nothing but the bare, vast square and adjoining road. Second account, Colombia. In 1930, the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians were building in Barranquilla, Colombia. Every day, news reached them of robberies and violence in the city and its surroundings. And they too feared the marauders because during the whole month of April, they had to store outdoors heaps of construction materials and furnishings like tubs, sinks, doors, and windows. Of course, the thieves knew the place well. On 4 occasions, before construction actually began, they had broken into the residence, and though they did no damage, they frightened the sisters. They therefore prayed to Don Bosco to send them his Grigio for protection. One night, behold, into the corridor of their old residence trooped a string of dogs, 6 of them, never before seen in the neighborhood. They posted themselves in the playfields and in the darkest corners of the old house. Getting over their fear, the sisters approached the dogs and found them to be very friendly. At 6 o'clock the next morning, the dogs filed out just as they had come in, and this they did for an entire month. Later, only 3 dogs appeared, of which one was poisoned, but another one immediately replaced him. They kept guard until the danger passed. Third account, La Navarre, France. A third case took place at La Navarre in France sometime between 1898 and 1900. Sister Josephine Cretas and Sister Verena Valenzano, recording the account 20 years later, couldn't remember the precise date. As is customary there, toward the end of October, the sisters venture into the nearby villages in search of chestnuts, remaining out 3 days. On that occasion, the 2 sisters went together. Going from one village to another took some 4 hours, mainly through sparsely inhabited woods. At a certain point, the solitude and silence got to them, and they panicked. "We can be ambushed out here," they cried, "and there's no one to defend us or even know we're here." As they mulled over these somber thoughts, they heard a rustling in the bushes as though someone were kicking up the leaves, but there was nothing to be seen. Suddenly, a huge dog appeared, drawing near them and wagging its tail. He circled around them and nudged their shoulders with his head as though to say, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." He then dashed out into the open, picked up a chestnut tree branch in his teeth, tossed it playfully into the air, and ran to catch it, keeping always in front of them as though trying to distract them from their grief. Could this be Don Bosco's Grigio? They asked each other. They were hoping to bring the dog home with them on their return. However, just as they were approaching the town, they met a coach with some ladies they knew and stopped for a chat with them. Meanwhile, the dog disappeared without a single trace. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to watch more videos about Don Bosco's angel dog, please click on the playlist above me here. God bless you, and Our Lady keep you.